the ComedySportz Podcast, starring your host, Christine Rollo Capriolo, leading it off and playing shortstop, Dianah Dulany.
Hey everybody, welcome to today's episode of the ComedySportz Podcast. I'm Christine Rollo Capriolo. Very amazing woman in the house today. We have Dianah Dulany. Dianah, thanks for coming.
Oh my gosh, my pleasure.
You are so part of the ComedySportz history. I'm just so honored to have you here at the podcast. You started forever ago, but before we get to that, and I don't mean like you're in an old way, I mean like you're so a part of this. That was terrible. I should start over. Where were you born and raised?
I was born in Pasadena, Texas, as we call it, Get-Down, Dina.
Get-Down, Dina.
Mm-hmm. So that's outside of Houston, Texas, if you don't know. And then I was raised in a little town called Belton, which is in central Texas, about an hour north of Austin.
Okay. And what kind of kid were you? What did you want to be when you grew up?
I always wanted to be a musical comedy actress.
Really?
Always. Yep. I had two older brothers.
Okay.
And particularly the brother that was closer to me in age and my father were big jokesters, prank pullers. So I learned very young that I had to be one of them to survive.
Yeah.
But I don't know why I was always geared toward theater. That's all I ever wanted to do.
And musical theater. Mm-hmm. Who inspired you? Who did you look up to?
Oh, gosh. Gilda Radner, Carol Burnett, Lucille Ball, all, those oldies.
Sure.
Angela Lansbury was a big one as I got a little older.
Yeah. Excellent.
Yeah.
And now you ended up going to college for theater, right?
I did, much to the chagrin of my parents.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
Actually, they were very supportive, although they, please get your master's so you can teach.
Okay.
And I did get my master's, but I knew full well I would probably never teach.
Really?
I hoped I'd never taught.
Now, what was your goal? Like Broadway in New York?
Yeah, that was the goal.
Okay.
And that's why I ended up going to New York.
You spent about 4 years in New York?
Mm-hmm. Wasn't very smart about it. Didn't have a savings with me. So got super caught up in the making a living in New York.
Okay.
So auditioned a little, did more projects of friends, costuming, props, stage management, that kind of thing. And ended up, oddly enough, getting into advertising. Was temping and then got hired and then got promoted and then realized, gosh, if I'm going to do advertising, I can do that anywhere. I don't have to live in Hell's Kitchen.
Yeah.
5th floor walk up.
Right.
So that's when I made my move. And ironically ended up in Milwaukee, which completely changed my life.
Right. Okay, so talk about that. How did you end up born and raised in Texas, moved to New York, and then suddenly you're in Milwaukee?
Well, so I went to graduate school outside of St. Louis in St. Charles, Missouri.
Okay.
And while I was there, I met two men who ended up being producers at Melody Top here in Milwaukee.
Yeah. We used to go see shows at Melody Top.
It was a big thing.
And it was like a tent?
Yes. Mm-hmm. And one of the 4 outdoor regional theaters in the country at its time.
Yeah.
And now, way back when, it made its name, I believe, from bringing in these big television stars.
Peter Reckles, who played Bo Brady on Days of Our Lives.
See, lots of soap stars.
Yes.
And people would just come in throngs to that theater. Well, economics started to change that. And so the year 1986 is when I was hired to come in and produce and direct the children's theater program for that summer.
In 1986? Okay.
And through being here that summer, I was only going to be here this summer.
Okay.
And I fell in love with Milwaukee.
It's a great town.
It really is. It's the perfect town, I think, because, I grew up was raised in a super small town, and I could not wait to get the hell out.
Yeah.
Now I appreciate it, but Milwaukee to me is a big little town. I know they say that, but you feel like you're in a little town, but then you have the symphony and ballet and all the theater you could want. And I just love it. So I really fell in love with the city. And then there was a job opportunity for the general manager at what was then Theater Tesseract.
Okay.
I don't know. You may not know this. You're too young, but it merged with Next Generation.
Oh, okay.
And is now Next Act.
Oh,
are you familiar with Next Act?
Yeah, absolutely.
They do great stuff.
Yeah.
So I was a general manager there for 4 years.
Okay.
And that was an excellent job for me.
Yeah.
It was one that I really had to. It was a struggle at first. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like I knew everything that I was doing.
Right. Yeah.
And I was working at least 60 hours a week.
Oh, my.
And ComedySportz actually saved me because that was my outlet.
How did you have time to do that with 60 hours a week?
Well, I made time because it was saving my soul.
Well, how'd you hear about it? Just being in the theater scene in Milwaukee?
No, actually, my parents came to visit me.
Okay.
And we were looking for something fun to do. And I just saw a listing.
Really?
Clean improv comedy. Yeah. And we went. And I fell in love from the beginning and talked to some of the players afterwards. And they ended up taking workshops. And then back then, what they would do is you would have a little showcase after your workshop, and Dick would come and watch, and then he would sort of ask people to come. You would be invited to a practice to see if you fit in with the group, you know? And I really wasn't interested in getting into the troupe because I had done improv in New York.
Okay.
And it was brutal. It wasn't fun.
What do you mean? What?
Well, like, it was so critical, and you would come off the stage from a scene and you would get a critique, like right there, like you just denied that. What are you doing? That wasn't funny. Next time you need to go out there and be funny.
Oh.
I was like, well, crap, this wasn't fun. So when Bo Johnson said, we'd love for you to come and see if it's a good mix, and I was like, I don't think. And so I explained, and he said, I don't think you'll find that here.
Yeah.
And it really wasn't. I mean, it was so supportive. Mm-hmm. They welcomed you with open arms. And I really, from the very beginning, I feel like I found the wonderful culture that is ComedySportz.
Yeah.
I really did. The arms open, and we'll find a place for you.
Yeah. Who do you remember performing with in Milwaukee when you started?
Oh, Bob Orvis, Bo Johnson, Brian Green, John Polesnik, Joe Cortese, Angelo Farina.
Yeah. So such a supportive group.
All the old guys.
Yeah.
Carol Bauman. Holly.
Holly Mitowski.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then you stuck around in Milwaukee for about 4 years performing with the troupe? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then what happened?
Well, I wanted ComedySportz to hire me as a general manager because I was sort of burned out with the nonprofit theater.
Okay.
But that wasn't a possibility, so Dick offered me the opportunity to open my own.
Oh, okay.
And I didn't really have any place pulling me, and so I thought, well, I'll go back to Texas.
Okay.
And Houston at the time had no ComedySportz. Dallas had ComedySportz briefly.
Okay.
And then they switched names. We're still doing the same show, but switched the names.
Okay.
Austin was already in existence. For whatever reason, I wasn't interested in San Antonio. But I knew that I wanted a big market because, ComedySportz in Milwaukee, mid-sized market, big success.
Sure.
So I thought, huge market, tremendous success, not realizing tremendous struggle.
Oh,
no. But, I mean, it all worked out beautifully. But it was hard, Houston was, to me, a difficult city, geographically huge, very, very big, and no designated area where you go for entertainment.
Oh.
Like that, too, was all
spread out.
Spread out all over the city. So where do you go?
Right.
You know, where's the best way to go?
Yeah.
And Houston is divided. There's inner loop and then there's outer loop.
Okay.
And so the cool things are back in the early 1990s. The cool things were all inner loop.
Okay.
And so that's where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And that's where we started. But then we had our most success and longest run, not in the suburbs exactly, but definitely outside the inner loop.
Okay.
On the west side of town.
Okay. And you've been down there for how many years now doing ComedySportz?
This is their 29th, Houston's 29th year.
That's wonderful. And you've been involved the whole time.
Well, I sold the business in 2015.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll get to that. Hold on. Pause on the 2015. I want to go backwards a little bit.
Okay.
Is it true you were one of the first female referees for a ComedySportz show?
I was.
So that started in Milwaukee?
Yes.
Tell me about that.
Well, that was largely probably due to the fact that I wanted to open my own.
Okay.
And so I needed to know how to ref.
Oh, all right.
In order to train refs, but also to do the shows initially before, when nobody else knew what the heck the show was.
Right. Now, would you prefer to play or ref?
Actually, I really enjoy both.
Yeah.
It took me a long time to say that about reffing.
Really?
Yeah, but I really enjoy both.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting, reffing. I mean, talk about the difference.
Well,
Like you're guiding the show in some sense.
I like that. I think there is, when I ref, I like to have a connection with the audience and sort of play, like, if I'm lucky, I get 2 or 3 in the audience that I can actually, like, literally play back and forth a little bit with.
Sure.
And as a player, you can do that sometimes too, but
yeah,
kind of less so because the ref is really in between the players and the audience, right?
Yeah.
And I kind of, I guess I'm a type A. I kind of like to call the shots. So yeah.
Yeah. So
it's fun for both.
Okay. So then when you were starting in Houston, Texas, how did you get people involved with being on the team?
So the first thing I did, and I believe Dick suggested this, that I go to the universities there, to their drama and theater departments, and just talk to them and tell them what it was and what we were doing and that we would hold tryouts.
Okay.
And so initially, and then of course you advertise, in the papers and what have you. And so initially the troupe was probably 15 strong, and probably 10 of those were college kids.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
And in fact, we practiced on U of H, University of Houston campus.
Yeah.
And then opened. And looking back, one of the funniest things to me was, I came to town, we cast this group and then begin the process of first just basic improv and then the games.
Right.
And then the format.
Right.
And during this time, while I'm doing all of this, I had asked Dick to send me some Milwaukee matches on, videotape so I could show the players. And they finally arrived, and I was so excited because finally they could see the product, right? Like that they could see it. And I just was so sure that this would like make them so excited, and it scared the hell out of them. They were like, we can't ever be that funny. I just couldn't believe it. It blew me away.
Really?
The exact opposite. It
didn't excite them. They just got
freaked out. It scared them, yeah.
Oh, no.
Like, no, you guys, it's going to be good. No, you're good.
That was the end of Houston ComedySportz.
Right. Yeah, so I packed my bags up, came back to Milwaukee.
And I've been here ever since. I don't know what to tell you. No. So then you started like practicing the games and the format, and you got them into it, and it happened.
Yeah.
Are any of those kids, the college kids, still with you? From the original group?
There is one still in Houston.
Oh, that's so great.
Yep, Carlo Minotti.
Really?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And the anniversary shows, we opened on November 8th, 1990.
Okay.
And so our anniversary show is always in November. And several of the old players come back and play, because what we do is all the players in the troupe and any alumni come join, play that night.
Yeah.
So it's a long but fun show.
Right. It's 4 days long.
Right. Super fun. Super fresh. Super fun.
How has your city experimented and played with the show format? Have you guys played around with it, changed it a bit?
The format itself, probably not a lot. I think me being involved with Milwaukee, I mean, that's what I knew.
Right.
And that's what I taught.
Sure.
Of course, we also have all, I think, grown, and the format has changed league-wise.
Yeah.
Do you call it a choice or a challenge, or, do you always do a catch-up game when you come back from halftime?
Yeah.
And so that kind of thing has been tweaked or changed, and every now and then that kind of thing gets switched. One of the best things I think that we employed was the bucket of games, where you don't decide beforehand what you're going to play.
Yes.
And I think that adds a lot to just keeping the spontaneity for the players.
Absolutely.
Because there's that thrill of, we don't know what's going to happen. What's the audience going to pick out of the bucket?
Well, yeah. When I started performing in Madison, it was just, you challenged or you picked right on the spot. You didn't plan it beforehand.
Yeah.
That was like the only thing I think the crowd didn't realize is some people plan the games beforehand. Just the game, what we're going to play.
Right, what we're going to play.
And then when I came to Milwaukee, I was shocked that they planned it beforehand.
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what? Really? It just surprised me. So I like that on the spot, like, we're going to challenge you to this. And you're like, whoa.
Yeah.
That was, true fun with the improv, But I think a lot of people have a hard time reading the crowd at first and knowing what games will work.
Yes.
Like newer players have a hard time with that.
Correct. Well, but to me, that's also one of the beauties of vending. A lot of cities I don't think vend anymore.
Yeah.
But that's, I think, a good way to sort of read the audience. So you can tell, are there 50 kids in the audience?
Right.
Then there are games that work best that they're going to just absolutely eat up.
Right. Absolutely.
Is it a church group? Is it,
Yeah.
whatever. I mean, it's always appropriate for everybody, but of course there are certain games that work better for those particular demographics.
Well, right. And if you have a really quiet, small crowd that's really hard to get anything out of them, you're not going to play 6 things, or you shouldn't, because you might not get anything out of them.
Right. Exactly.
So it's important to read that crowd.
Yeah.
Yeah. How do you teach newer players? You're still teaching down there, or were you still?
I was, yes.
And now how did what was something really important you taught new people who wanted to perform?
I think the biggest, the number one rule, in my opinion anyway, is the accept and agree, the yes and.
Yes and.
And just to get into the mindset that there are no throwaway lines. Mm-hmm. If it's going to be said, you want to treat it like it was the most brilliant thing that needed to be said right then, and accept it and build on it.
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing.
Absolutely.
And some people, take to that easier than others. I mean, through the years, I've had so many people that, like, for example, players that ask a lot of questions, and you try to, there's really, sometimes questions are fine.
Right.
But in a lot of times, you're throwing that back on the other improviser to really improvise.
Right.
Well, what are you doing? Well, where are we? Well, what's that?
Right.
And in training a lot of people, I've found I get a lot of, I'm just really polite, and so I feel like I don't want to be too pushy. And it's like, okay, well, improv, you need to be a little pushy.
Yeah.
You need to move things along.
Right. So tell me about the phrase "be all here." Is that a phrase you came up with?
I probably didn't come up with it myself, but it's basically being present, being in the moment. Really just being in the moment of that scene. Mm-hmm. There's a comedy festival in Austin every year called Out of Bounds.
Okay.
And it's a wonderful opportunity, particularly for Texan improvisers, because they bring in people from all over the country and you don't have to go to them and take these great workshops. And I just took a workshop. It happens every Labor Day. And I just took a workshop, and the premise was your improv partner has everything you need.
Oh, I like that.
And I do too.
Yeah.
And it's really it frees you up.
Yeah.
The other thing, and this goes along with that, is that I am of the philosophy that I want to take care of my partner. My focus is on my partner. Yeah. And what happens when I do that is I forget about me. I forget about all my insecurities, forget about what I'm looking like, what I'm sounding like, what's coming out of my mouth. And it really just, to me, makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. The comfort level.
Oh, absolutely. Well, I like what you said, that your partner, whatever they say, is the best thing that could have been said in that moment. Yeah. Like that's just sums it up. It's so wonderful, because it's true. When you're there, whatever choice you make or whatever choice your scene mate makes, you just got to accept it and build on it and keep going with it.
Yep.
And sometimes that doesn't happen, and that doesn't feel so good.
Right.
So it's very important to teach that, that support.
Well, and the thing, too, is that I always say, too, a lot of times as improvisers, we're working a lot harder than we need to. Like, you say something and I don't think, I make a negative judgment of that, and then I have to think of something else. I'm working a lot harder than if I had said in my mind, oh, Christine, that's fabulous. We can move on from there. Right?
We're just accepting everyone's choices and going with it.
Yeah.
So do you do notes in Houston? Do you talk after the show?
Yes.
How do you guys do it down there?
Typically, the ref will go just game by game by game. The good, the bad, and the ugly. Mm-hmm. And then what we also do, which is nice, is end with everyone sharing a favorite moment.
Oh, good.
Of the show. So we're ending on positive, and not all the notes are critical.
No, but how do you give a note for someone that needs to hear it? How do you give those notes? You said the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Yeah. Well, a lot of my notes are more technical, because I don't believe in the what you should have done is.
You can't criticize a choice.
Right. Yeah. Right. I think sometimes it's appropriate to point out what other possibilities could have been, particularly if something goes down the wrong path.
Okay.
Maybe you go not dirty, but not exactly family friendly. Mm-hmm. Then let's talk about other choices. Right. How that, suggestion could have brought about something else.
Sure.
And certainly I do believe too that when something exceptionally great happens, that needs to be pointed out too. However, I never shied away from, I guess some people would call me critical.
That's okay.
I have a furrowed brow many times.
Ooh, you just did it. It was very furrowed.
Yeah, I know. I have I can't control what happens on my face, but...
everyone knows what I'm thinking and feeling too at every moment.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's a blessing and a curse, I think.
Well, how do you bounce back from a show then that you didn't feel too good in? You didn't feel like you had a good show, maybe? How do you bounce back from that?
You just got to shake it off.
Shake it off.
Shake it off.
Yeah. Because it happens.
Of course it happens. But nobody wants to be around somebody that's going to, keep beating themselves up about that.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So, sometimes it's easier than other times, definitely.
Sure.
But that's also the beauty of improv, because you do it, it's over. It's done.
Yeah, right.
Never going to happen again.
And the next one's all brand new.
That's right. That's right.
What are your favorite games to play?
I love the musical games, of course.
Okay.
Probably my favorite is Sing for Your Supper.
Sing for Your... Oh, God. I've heard the name.
Conducted. So the team stands in a line and the ref conducts the players. So you sing when when the ref points to you.
So kind of like Story?
Kind of like Story, only it's a lot more forgiving. You're not trying to... You know how in Story you want to... it's an elimination game, so you're trying to catch players a little off guard.
Yeah.
Sing for Your Supper, it's more of you're just evenly, I guess, giving the focus to each player.
Okay. So you guys do musical games?
Yes, we do.
Man.
Yeah, we're lucky to have a good keyboardist.
I love that.
And see, when I was here, Paula Foley was the keyboardist.
Paula Foley did it in Milwaukee.
Amazing.
And then Esther did it. And we haven't had a keyboardist in a long time. And I love to see other cities when they're doing musical games. And I think, man, that is a huge part of this that we're missing.
It is. It's so fun because also they can add different layers to non-musical games
Absolutely.
too. So I'm currently playing in Austin because I moved from Houston 2 years ago after I sold. I hung around in Houston for a little while, and then I moved back near my hometown.
Okay.
And I'm not too far from Austin.
Okay.
So I've been lucky enough to be welcomed into the Austin troupe.
So why did you sell Houston?
A number of reasons. I had some, my mother got ill and she was in Central Texas, and I spent a whole lot of time there. And so I really sort of felt a little distanced from the business. And along with that, I'd been doing it for 25 years, and I had a couple of younger guys who were interested in taking over. And it just seemed like the right time to make the move.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so now you're performing in...
So now I'm just a player, which is, again, just another player. And it is a beautiful thing.
And with a different troupe.
With a different troupe, yeah. But I was going to say, Austin does musical games, but they do it with pre-recorded music.
Oh, okay.
Which is great. It does work, but it's harder. I think it's a lot harder when you don't have an improviser at the keyboard.
Yeah, I was going to say.
who can follow you. And, you make a change when you really shouldn't have made a change. They can make that change with you.
And now you're trying to follow the recorded music.
Exactly.
So that's got to be harder.
Yeah, it is.
So now what did you notice as a difference between Houston and Austin, just how they perform? Do you see any differences? I mean, other than the recorded music, I mean, is it?
Yeah, Austin, well, one of the beauties, I think, of the league is that every city really has its own personality.
Yeah, absolutely.
Austin, I don't know if you're familiar with Austin. Madison is often compared to Austin.
Okay.
So to give you an idea.
Okay.
Big University of Texas, big college town.
All right.
Tight quarters,
Yeah.
Lots of people. But Austin's tagline is "Keep Austin Weird," which which is basically meaning you can do your own thing, baby. It's all good. And so there's a lot of people doing their own thing there. So it's much more, in my opinion, a little loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
Which can certainly foster creativity.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's I guess if I had to sum it up in one word, it would be just looser.
Looser. Interesting. Do you get back to Houston to perform there?
I do every now and then.
Yeah.
Typically, I'm definitely almost always there for the anniversary.
Okay.
It's this year. I mean, this weekend this year. So I'm missing this because I wanted to come to Chud Nation.
Sure. Yeah, so you're here in Milwaukee for Chud Nation,
Yes.
for Dick and Jen Chud now.
Yes.
Okay. So I want to scoot back to 2010. You won the Savvy Sister Award. What is that? Explain that.
Oh, goodness. It is an award it's called a Her Award.
A Her Award.
That probably stands for something, but I don't know. It's presented by Houston Magazine.
Okay.
Which is a woman owned magazine.
Okay.
And basically it's a celebration of women. Mm-hmm. And the most interesting thing about that to me, or that affected my life, is that I had never really understood why women always wanted to get together with just women.
Okay.
Like I never did. I always had boy friends, like friends that were boys.
Sure.
I had two brothers. I was certainly a tomboy growing up, and I really didn't ever understand the need or want really to segregate.
Okay.
But when I got that award, there was a luncheon, and the friend of mine that had nominated me came to the luncheon, and I don't know, for some reason, I was like, oh my God, this is really empowering. This is
look at all these women,
and look at all we've accomplished, and oh my gosh. And so I got it then. I don't know why, but I just got it. And so it's not, I don't think it takes away the fact, that men and women together can work together and do great things. Yeah. But it is also very cool to have women that are, really the mindset is to support their fellow woman.
Right.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So now I'm feeling like Comedy Sports, there have been women managers and men managers, and it wasn't something that was just an anomaly, right? Like you were just doing your thing, and did you get any criticism being a woman in charge? It doesn't seem like.
Well, no, I don't think I ever did. No. Not from the people that I was charging. No.
They charged right on.
That's right. Right.
So I'm noticing in Milwaukee now, there's a lot more female players. When I was performing before, there were very few. I came in and it was Holly Ignatowski.
Yep.
And that was it, I feel like.
Yeah.
And then I was coming in and it was just a bunch of men.
Yeah.
And so now when I go down there, there's so many women. It's amazing.
It is amazing, and it's great. And that is also true with management of all the comedy sports across the league. Because there were women, but it was, I would venture to say it was pretty much a boys club when we came in, and it was easy to be a little discounted as a woman. But that's all changed.
Right.
Yeah. We roared. They heard us.
Right. We're funny. We're here.
That's right.
I wear a bra.
Yeah, we're not going anywhere. So get used to it.
Well, that's great. I mean, like I said, I'm amazed when I perform now, and there's so many women.
Yeah.
It just blows my mind. It really does. We used to do this thing where, like, if there were 3 women, like me, Holly Ignatowski, and Stacy Meyer was performing, then it'd be like, oh, let's put all the girls on the same team, and we'll do boys against girls. And we're like, well, can we just do a show? I don't know. Can we just, like, not make it a big deal?
Right.
But I guess it was a big deal at a time when there were hardly any women performing.
Right.
And so, and the audience would be like, oh, wow, look at that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But
well,
now,
I'm sure you got comments. I mean, we've probably all gotten comments after the show. Wow, you really held up against all those boys.
You were funny. Or I like when they say, you were actually funny. Like, really? Oh, thanks. Like,
yeah, I know. Amazing.
Yeah, you were actually good up there with your boobs. That was good. Thanks, I think. That was fun. Good. But no, I'm just amazed going back and seeing so many strong, funny females.
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, I'm coming from a time when that just wasn't the case. So it's really awesome to see and be supported.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, it's incredible. So on the table here, I've got a handful of games, of comedy sports games. I want you to pick 2. And if you don't know it, just throw it back in and grab a new one. I know cities have different ones. And I want you to tell me, if you had to do a show right now, what game would you rather play out of those 2? There's probably no musical games in there. I'm just telling you.
Thanks a lot.
I'm just telling you. There's probably not one. What do we have?
I got Shopping Spree and Countdown.
Oh, all right. Tell us about those.
Okay. So Shopping Spree is a fun game. Mm-hmm. The one player is naive.
So it's a guessing game.
It's a guessing game. So you send one out, and then you get a list of items that you might be able to purchase or not, and then something wacky about them.
Right.
The naive player comes back in, and the players that have the list of the items are coming in either needing that, or sometimes you return that, depending on who starts it.
And it's a super wacky item, like
a hairy toaster that flies.
Right.
I mean,
it doesn't make toast.
Ridiculous.
It makes, hippopotamus feet or something.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
Right. So you are trying to get the naive player to understand that you need that hairy toaster that flies and makes
hippopotamus feet.
Yeah.
Because that's what I'm serving tonight at my dinner party.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. This is a challenging game, I think, because you want to be clever. You know, you don't want to just say, yeah, and it doesn't make toast. It makes, that big animal that,
Right.
you usually see a picture of it in water. And
yeah, you're right. There's a skill to that.
Big time. It's
when it
tough.
works, it's amazing.
Yeah.
And you don't realize it when it's not working. And yeah, someone walks in and says, yeah, I want that kitchen appliance that normally makes hot bread.
Yeah,
it's like,
boring.
That's not fun.
Yeah. So I think that's a tough game to do well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when it does work, it works.
So I would not pick that.
You would
game.
not pick that. What's the second one you had?
Is Countdown.
Countdown. Tell us about that.
Okay, so Countdown, you do a quick scene, maybe a minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes.
Okay.
Active, hopefully. Lots of actions tied to your words.
Right.
Because what happens is the ref calls the end of that time, and then you're going to replay that same scene, but in half that time.
Right.
Then play it again in half that time.
Sure.
And sometimes half that time and half
that
time.
time.
Yeah.
7 seconds.
Yeah.
Go.
Yeah.
That's a fun one.
Yeah. Super fun. Ends
Yes.
in total chaos. Yeah. Always fun.
So you'd pick that one.
Absolutely.
I love it.
Yeah.
When you were talking about shopping spree, making sure, you give clues in an interesting way. As far as improv in general, do you think anyone can do it? Do you think it's a skill that some people just have? Like, can you teach it?
I think that it's largely a muscle. So I think that you can work it like, it's funny. Everybody says, what? You practice? Oh, it must not be real improv.
Right.
But you are working the skills.
Yeah.
And the more you work, it's like anything else. The more
Right.
you do it, the more then you can do it without thinking.
Yeah.
The more intuitive and all it becomes. I find it interesting. I've seen people who you bring in and they're super green, and you see them grow and be better and better, and then they hit this wall. Where you feel as a trainer, you feel they could go farther, but they just never do.
They don't.
No matter how much they train and how much
Right.
they perform, they just don't do it. So that kind of makes me believe maybe it's not just a skill that anybody can learn. I don't know. That's a tough question. I think people are, it's like everything else. Some people are more musically inclined than others. I think some people are just more inclined
Right.
to do improv.
Yeah. I'm always blown away when I hear, what do they say, like people's most common fears, death, speaking in front of a crowd. I'm like, how is that up there with death?
I know, but it is.
And that weirds me out. But I'm a teacher and I watch my students. And some of them, you call on them in class and they're just like, they shrink and they can't speak. I'm like, what is the problem? Like, I guess I'm always in front of a crowd. I'm in front of students or I'm on the stage. And it's just, to me, like, how is that a fear that lines up with death?
Yeah.
Like death, that scares me.
Yeah. But you know what I think it is? I mean, I find I like to tell myself I'm a strong improviser.
Yeah.
But I last year officiated my first wedding.
Really?
From a very good friend's daughter.
Okay.
And I've never been more nervous.
Really?
And when I admitted to being nervous to friends, they were like, "You are kidding me. You have been in front of thousands of people." And I said, "Yeah, but then I can be goofy. It doesn't matter."
Right, like this
is something... if I
something-
fail there, it's funny.
Right.
But if I fail at this
Doing a
wedding thing, that's exactly, yeah. And of course, my biggest, I did get a big laugh because I forgot to tell the crowd to sit down after the bride came in.
So they're all just standing.
Yeah, they're all just standing. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm talking, and I'm thinking in my head, something's off. I don't know what's off. And then finally, it clicked. Like, oh, everyone may be seated now.
Right, just sit down. Why are you all standing still?
Yeah.
So you could feel a little of that nervousness in front of a crowd. That's interesting.
Very much so.
Well, I always say to my husband, I'm an introvert. I'm out there. Wherever we go, I'll talk to someone. We go restaurant, bookstore, wherever. And he'll even pull me aside and be like, honey, don't start talking to these people. Can we just go in and out? And he's an introvert. Like, it's gotten worse over the years. I'm not saying anything out of turn. He knows this.
Right.
And But I'll say to him, but you get up in front of hundreds or thousands of people and do shows. How can you be an introvert and get on stage? And he's like, it's just different. I can do it and I can leave.
See, I agree.
Yeah.
It's just different.
I guess so, because I'm just always out there and talking and making friends. And and he's just like, no, I don't like people, and I'll do my show and I'll leave. He's like, he always says people are no damn good. That's what he does. I don't know, that just doesn't seem to add up to me. I'm like, but you get up, you're funny, you know, you do. He's like, that's different. I don't know. I can do it on stage.
Yeah.
All right, one last game here, Dianah.
All right.
We're gonna pick a card. You can pick any of those questions. It's the Would You Rather game.
Oh.
Yeah, tell me, would you rather? Do the two choices, and we're gonna get to know you here on a really bizarre level of the Would You Rather question.
Okay, I'll pick a gross one. Okay. Food ingestion.
All right.
All right. Would you rather suck on a bandage found in the drain? Oh, God.
Oh.
Suck on a bandage found in the drain of a men's locker room at the YMCA. Oh. Or chew a piece of gum found under a seat on a bus. Okay, I'm sorry, but I would much rather have that piece of gum.
Me too.
Oh,
a million
that's
times
gross.
over.
Suck on a bandage.
That is the grossest one I've heard. I almost threw up here. Oh. Yeah, the gum.
Yeah.
100%.
Oh.
The gum. Oh, we're ending it on a really awkward note.
Sponsored by Spearmint.
Right. Dianah, this has been awesome. I want to quick have you tell the story, though, before I leave here with you.
Yeah.
How did you get your name, Dianah Dulany? Where did Delooney come from?
You know what? I think that was the first thing that Dick Chudnow thought when it was before my first show. It was like a really quick thing. Oh, I need a nickname. And he said, Dianah Dulany.
And it just
I was like, perfect. I love it.
And it's been that ever since.
It's been that ever since.
Oh my gosh.
Never changed.
I love it. Dianah Dulany. Thank you so much for coming. This has been an honor to interview you.
My pleasure.
It's been awesome. Thanks,
Thank
Dianah.
you.
Yeah, thank you. The Comedy Sports Podcast is produced and engineered by Kyle Hanneken. Our announcer is PJ Rockwell. Check us out on Facebook and follow us on Instagram. Comments and questions can be sent to the ComedySportz Podcast at gmail.com. Created and hosted by me, Christine Rollo Capriolo. Check you later.
The ComedySportz Podcast is an independent production made by CSz players. The views and opinions expressed by the podcast host and any guests are their own and do not represent the views and opinions of any CSz location or CSz Worldwide. Vocabulary used by the host and guests is not necessarily representative of the CSz brand.